I think the definition of broken in terms of individual circumstances has changed or shifted over the years. Whereas before, being broken is mostly about being mercilessly mortified by one's experiences in witnessing countless life deaths in the forefront of warfare, nowadays, being broken is mostly about getting utterly shit-fucked and chewed spit by the people whom we initially thought were the purest souls imaginable, regardless if they are our friends, partner, relatives, or even parents. And the worst part about them is that none of them are voluntarily desired by us. It's just either an inconvenient mismatch, or as most of us would intrinsically call it, an unfair misfortune. To be broken is far from ideal and far from optimal, as the damages inflicted upon us would certainly stain us with several behavioral parasites and countless extremes of mental malfunctions. We become a much more sensitively bitter and resentful person who is very quick to jump into conclusions. We become someone who sees everything from a negative light. We become a lot more judgmental and a lot less sympathetic and empathetic. We tend to veer into consuming substances and become addicts in order to numb the stresses of our minds that we ourselves refuse to understand. We start to become a lot more defensively isolated within our own worlds and become ruthlessly less dependent and trusting of others, despite our desperation for help. We even start to inadvertently attract and hurt other people, usually through treating them like shit and eventually pushing them away. We didn't ask for all of this. It's just a natural coping or defense mechanisms to prevent us from encountering the same traumatic circumstances and also to try to combat the potential momentum of those circumstances from ever happening again. Now, the good news is that this dark and angry part of our lives is only an impermanent phase of cognitive biasness and dissonance that can change over time, if we actually allow it to be as such. Because should we refuse to be anyone better or to face and accept the reality of our circumstances, we would inevitably remain as the pathetic and deluded pipsqueaks that is desperate to bring fairy tales into reality. And speaking of reality, that is where we must start to educate ourselves about and embrace the unfairness of it all. The inconsiderate relationship of cause and effects, the impermanence of life, the dark side of human nature, the fundamental differences between men and women. All of these necessitates our complete attention and focus in order for us to eventually find the answers we're looking for. And that is why education is the best medicine for broken people. Because through discovering all the answers that we need in accordance to our respective circumstances, we can finally confront and understand the origins of the emotional torment that we are currently enduring and fighting against. We can finally be able to compute why life is the way it is, why people are the way they are, and why we are the way we are. We can finally see the pattern of why things happen the way they did and why people behave differently because of different things they encounter. We start to learn to put ourselves in the shoes of others and understand why they behave and operate the way they did. We can eventually learn to accept everything and everyone for the way they are instead of trying to desperately change them to fit our needs. And most importantly, we can learn a lot about ourselves of why we think and behave in such a way that we did. Human beings shape their thoughts and behaviors through many different stages in their lives, primarily through the different people they encounter and the distinct cultured environments they put themselves in or are surrounded by, especially in their upbringings. And secondly, the choices they made during their adulthood that precipitate certain significant and life-changing circumstances. That is why it is crucial to find out, learn, and understand where we ourselves come from, where others come from, and also what we've and they've encountered to know ourselves and them on a more intimate level. That is why if you're abused by your parents, learn where they come from and how they were raised by your grandparents. If a friend decided to leave you behind, find out the circumstances he or she is currently dealing with and the people they're hanging out with that caused him or her to make such imminent decision. If a partner decides to cheat on you, learn about their relationship history and patterns and identify the catalysts for their misbehaviors that you've noticed but ignored through their respective nature, their relationship with his or her parents, and their choice of environments and friends. We may initially become even more embittered through realizing the answers that we're looking for, because despite our desperation to know and understand them, they are also the answers that we're trying to avoid hearing and knowing, just because of how viscerally painful it is to admit our shortcomings, ignorance, stupidity, naivety, immaturity, inferiority, and deficiency. And even more bitterly painful is how defenselessly we are unprepared for it all for decades until everything comes crashing down at us all at once and we having to face all of the dire circumstances all on our own and deal with them all on our own. But this is the hell that we have to go through in order to eventually make peace with all of our involuntarily misfortunes that bestowed us. We will inevitably be permanently scarred by what happened to us, but we can patch them up and move on, or we can leave it open and continuously let them bleed out and irritate us. We all may still try to deny our involvement in every misfortune that we encounter, especially if we have absolutely nothing to do with its genesis. Well, here's another harsh reality that we all must face. We're not entitled to the finer things that life has to offer, but we are entitled to every shit that life can and will throw at us. Because we all exist in his game, and we all must play by his rules in order to win. And the hardest part about this game is learning, accepting, and understanding those rules so that we can maneuver ourselves around the pitfalls or potholes to make the right decisions and eventually win. Thank you for watching.